She was young, beautiful, and on the verge of Hollywood stardom. A Playboy Playmate of the Year with a promising future in acting. Dorothy Stratten had the world at her feet, but her life was cut short in the most horrific way imaginable. Not by a stranger or a serial killer, but by the very man who claimed to love her. This is the heartbreaking story of Dorothy Stratten, a rising star whose life was stolen by jealousy, obsession, and rage. But before we dive into the horror, let's go back to where it all began. Dorothy Stratten was born on February 28, 1960, in Vancouver, Canada. She grew up in a working-class family, and by her late teens, she was just a regular girl working at a Dairy Queen to make ends meet. But her life changed forever when she met Paul Snider. Snider was a flashy, smooth-talking hustler, a man who lived off women and always had his eyes on the next big thing, a true hustler in every sense of the word. The moment he saw Dorothy, he knew she was special. She was 17 when they met, and many say he took advantage of her. Snider was taken away by Dorothy's charm, and he had a plan for her. Snider started dating Dorothy and convinced her to enter the world of modeling, and in 1978, he sent her photos to Playboy magazine. Based on how lovely Dorothy was, it was not a surprise that it didn't take long before Hugh Hefner himself noticed her beauty, and soon she was invited to Los Angeles to pose for the magazine. It was a dream come true. Dorothy quickly became a playmate, and within a year, her star was rising. She was named Playboy's Playmate of the Year in 1980, landing her a $200,000 prize and opening the door to an acting career. She was rubbing shoulders with celebrities, starring in movies, and even catching the eye of director Peter Bogdanovich, a man who would play a key role in both her career and tragic downfall. Don't forget his name. But while Dorothy was stepping into the spotlight, Paul Snider was being left behind, and he didn't like that. Like he really didn't like that. At first, Snider was Dorothy's biggest supporter. He acted as her manager, guiding her career and making sure she got noticed. But beneath the surface, his controlling, insecure, and manipulative nature began to show. Dorothy grew more and more independent. She no longer needed Snider to get work in Hollywood. Influential people approached her, and this made Snider feel useless, like he was losing control over her. Snider was not just losing control over Dorothy, he was losing his financial stability too. Snider had no real career, no Hollywood connections, and no future without Dorothy's success. He was living off Dorothy's earnings, and as she gained independence, he felt his grip on her slipping away. What made it worse? Dorothy was now spending time with wealthy, powerful men, Hugh Hefner, Peter Bogdanovich, and Hollywood executives who had more money and influence than Snider ever would. Snider grew more insecure and became more violent. It sickened him. Snider became paranoid that Dorothy was cheating. He would argue with her constantly, accusing her of being unfaithful. One day, while searching through her things, he found what appeared to be love notes or poems hidden in her drawer. That was all the proof he needed. Determined to find out the truth, Snider hired a private investigator to follow Dorothy and report back on who she was seeing. When he finally learned that she was dating Peter Bogdanovich, something inside him snapped. He had given her everything, and now, in his mind, she was betraying him. That's when he lost it. Dorothy was falling more and more in love with Bogdanovich, and she came to a realization that she deserves better, and Snider was a toxic person who only used her for her money. Keep in mind that Snider and Dorothy are married by now, a wedding that Dorothy was manipulated into. On August 14, 1980, Dorothy agreed to meet Snyder one last time at the apartment they once shared in West Los Angeles. She wanted to settle things amicably, finalize their split, and move on with her new life. Her friends warned her not to go to him, but she felt she owed him that much. She wanted to be civil with the breakup. She had no idea she was walking into a death trap. Inside that apartment, Snyder had a 12-gauge shotgun waiting for her. As soon as Dorothy arrived, things turned ugly fast. The couple got into a heated argument, with Snyder shouting accusations at her, demanding to know if she had slept with Bogdanovich. Dorothy tried to calm him down, but Snyder was beyond reason. Then he physically assaulted her. S.A.'d her. Dorothy fought back, but Snyder overpowered her. In a final act of rage and desperation, he pulled out the shotgun and shot Dorothy in the face at point-blank range, unaliving her instantly. What he did next is unspeakable. With her body lying there, lifeless, he sexually assaulted her. A final twisted act of control over the woman he felt had abandoned him. Then, realizing what he had done, and that he could never undo it, Snyder turned the gun on himself. At approximately 12:30 p.m., 2 lives were lost in that small, blood-soaked room. The news of Dorothy Stratten's murder shocked Hollywood. She was just 20 years old, with her whole life ahead of her. Hugh Hefner called it a tragedy beyond words, blaming it on jealousy and possessiveness. Peter Bogdanovich was devastated. He later wrote a book about her life, titled The Killing of the Unicorn, in which he blamed Playboy culture for enabling men like Snyder to treat women as disposable objects. But no amount of blame or grief could bring Dorothy back. Her funeral was held on August 18, 1980, and her body was laid to rest at Westwood Memorial Park in Los Angeles. On her gravestone, the inscription reads, "If people bring so much courage to this world, the world has to kill them to break them. So of course it kills them. It kills the very good and the very gentle and the very brave impartially." Dorothy was all those things, good, gentle, and brave. But in the end, she became yet another victim of a man who couldn't handle rejection. Dorothy Stratten's story is one of talent, success, and unimaginable tragedy. She was a rising star, full of potential, but her life was stolen by a man who saw her as his possession. Her story serves as a chilling reminder of how dangerous obsessive love can be, and how sometimes the people closest to us can be the most deadly. Dorothy was more than just a playmate. She was a woman with dreams, intelligence, and kindness. And though her time on this earth was cut short, her story will never be forgotten. If you found this case shocking, make sure to subscribe for more true crime stories. Until next time.